And we're live with another new episode of Around the Bases. I'm Nick Delahanty. We bring you all the latest in the world of sports every Friday night here on WRC Radio at 7 o'clock. You can find us on streamlicensing.com and also the TuneIn app. You can go to Facebook and tweet us at ATBWRC and find us on Facebook at Around the Bases. Now, tonight's show is a very special show for us as we have a special guest in the booth. He is a current LA Dodger prospect and former Felician College baseball standout, was a big part of the 2014 conference championship team. That is Scott DeYoung. Scott, how are you doing?
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate your time and just have a few questions for you so we'll get the ball rolling. Let's start about when you first came to Felician College. Now, you started at the University of Connecticut. What was the reason why you chose Felician when you decided to come here?
Well, when I was at UConn, I just realized when I was there, I enjoyed my time there first and foremost, but I realized it wasn't really for me. I had a close connection with Coach Chris Langen and his brother before I came to Felician, and once my season ended up there, I thought it'd be a good idea to explore my other options and see what other options I had concerning to go to other schools. Felician was always attractive to me because it was close to home, and I felt really comfortable with the coaches, and it came to a point where we sat down and we figured out it was the right fit for me, and I'm not looking back from it at all. It was a great decision.
Being that you were so close to Coach Langen, what did he say to you when he was trying to recruit you to come to Felician?
He told me he's going to give me the chance to play. He's going to let me be me. He's not going to try to change anything. Coach Langen's a really easygoing guy. I mean, he's the type of coach that just lets you play, and he doesn't really try to change you much. And he looks at it as if you're good enough to play in college baseball, you're good enough. He's not going to make a lot of adjustments to you. He's just going to let you play your game.
Now, when you came to Felician, like he said, his promise came out, and you played in 48 games as a freshman here at Felician. What kind of transition was it for you coming from UConn to Felician College?
Well, Division II life is really different. When I was at UConn, I went on a lot of the trips in the beginning of the season, and I went on 5 trips on the beginning of the season. They were all in an airplane. When I came to Felician, we went on 3 trips all in the beginning of the year, and they were all on a bus, and most of them were over 10 hours. So that's a big difference. Besides that, baseball's a simple game. Baseball's baseball, no matter which way you look at it. That's pretty much it, yeah.
So when you came to Felician, you stepped foot on the Lyndhurst field for the first time. What were you thinking looking at that field?
It's huge. You can't try to hit home runs there, that's for sure.
Now, did your approach, what do you try to do on that field, knowing that you have a lot of power? You try to use the gaps a little bit, or you just try to not think about that type of stuff?
You can't really think about the field too much. You just got to try to think of putting the barrel on baseballs and hit balls in the gap, because if you do that, good things are going to happen.
So between your 2013 and your 2014 season, you made a really huge jump. In 2014, you hit 374. You were one of the main pieces in the lineup. What do you think was the main difference as to why your numbers really went up this season?
Well, the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I went to play in the NYCBL up in Wellsville, and I played for the Wellsville Nitros. And there was a coach I had there named Anthony Barone, who actually played at Felician a while back. And he just went up there and told me to relax. It was weird. He actually put me in the leadoff spot, which was something I never would have imagined, but it clicked for me. It made me relax, and it just made me be the player who I wanted to be without stressing, without having to worry about carrying a team on your back. Because I think a lot my freshman year when I was here, we had some injuries, and I kind of, for some reason, I put myself in that role when I really shouldn't have when I was a young guy. But for some reason I did that, and when I went to Wellsville, I learned to relax, and I had a great summer. I ended up being Player of the Year that summer, and I hit 15 home runs. So there's no looking back from that, and I just carried that success over into this past spring.
You know, you could look at all the awards and the nominations that you've been nominated for in your time here at Felician, and the list goes on. We could sit here for days talking about it. When you sit back and you realize what the numbers you put on the table and all these recognition and honors you received, that's got to mean something as to how your success has played out so far.
Oh, for sure. I mean, just putting those together and helping the team win and just getting a CACC championship means more than anything.
That CACC championship that you brought up, that was an unbelievable ride for Felician College, the first one in school history. Why do you think this team was so successful in being able to do that and accomplish that goal?
We were very, very balanced. We had very good defense. We had very good pitching. We had very good hitting. And you put those 3 together in baseball, that usually means you're going to have a good team. So when we put that all together and we played as a group and we were real energetic and we were just ourselves, it just came together, and the results speak for themselves.
one of the main things that I saw when I was doing a little research on this team was you guys were 15-5 in the conference and 13-4 at home. Those numbers are very big in regards to when you're on your home field, you want to be successful, and especially in the conference where those games mean so much. How important is that for a guy like you realizing that, if you want to be a champion in the conference, you have to really dominate throughout the season?
I mean, exactly. Hey, it comes down to it. If you want to be a champion, you got to win games. There's nothing more than that.
You had a lot of veteran leadership on this team, including yourself. You had Jerry Vasta, who was also drafted, Aaron Brill, who's now playing for the Quebec Capitals in the Can-Am League. Talk to me a little bit about those guys and what they bring to the table helping this team.
Well, Aaron was definitely one of our leaders for sure. He was hit right in the middle of the lineup. He came off a strong year the year before, so he was kind of one of the guys that had a target on his back, and he did really well, and he rebounded and had another great year. With him being such a good player he was the year before, it kind of took the pressure off me a little bit. And even Joe Potosa coming back, who had a great year the year before that. Unfortunately, he was hurt the first year I was here. Took even more pressure off me and just let me play. I just settled in right in the middle of the lineup, right between them, and it was great. Jerry was the type of guy that you could give him the ball once a week, and you knew he was going to get you a win. There was no doubt about it. You knew when he was on the mound, he was the best guy on the mound in the area. So it just brings a lot of confidence for a team coming into a game when you have players like that.
You also had a lot of success from younger guys in the pitching staff. You had John Holland, who had a great year, Jack Fowler, who set numerous Felician records. What role did those two guys and some of the younger pitchers on that staff really play a role in trying to make this team better for not only this year, but the years to come?
Those two guys especially are great competitors. They're probably two of the best competitors I've ever played with. And I've played with a lot of competitors. I mean, Jack Fowler and John Holland are two different animals when it comes to competing. And when you have competitors like that, it definitely pushes other guys, not only the pitchers, but the hitters as well.
So let's look at your conference tournament, and these numbers amazed me. There was 3 games in the tournament. Now, for those of you who don't understand how the conference works, basically you win, you move on, and it's a very short tournament. And you guys went 3-0 in the tournament, but you especially, you were the MVP of the tournament. 7 for 12, 5 runs scored, 2 doubles, a walk, and a RBI. Now, when you get into a situation like that when you're in a tournament and the games are a little bit more elevated, does that put a little more pressure on you, or it's the same kind of approach day in, day out?
I mean, there's a little more pressure, but when it comes down to it, I mean, like I said before, baseball is baseball. When you just take a breath and relax, and especially once you get your first at bat in, or you play that first inning, you get the first ball hit to you in the field, or for a pitcher, you get your first out. Once you settle in, baseball is baseball, and you're going to relax, and it's the same game as the 50 you played before that.
So after the season ended and you guys had your magical run ended in the later on the regionals, you had the opportunity to be drafted by the Dodgers in the 32nd round. Now, before we get to that, when did you realize that scouts were looking at you and there was a possibility that you could be drafted?
After the summer I had in the NYCBL, I definitely knew I was going to have some eyes on me. And so I had a good idea coming into the season what was going to happen if I had a good year.
So did you and Coach Langen talk about this throughout the year, or was that something that you kind of tried to put on the side until after?
We talked about it in the winter leading up to the year, in the fall season. But once the season started, we just concentrated on the season. But kind of towards the end of the year, the conversation had to come up more.
Now, when you do workouts and the private meetings with these teams, where were you expecting to go in the draft, and what was the kind of mindset going into that day?
I was expecting middle to late rounds, so where I was taken, it wasn't a surprise to me. That's kind of what I was told originally before the draft. So, I mean, I heard some things that I might go higher, but you just don't believe it until you see it, and that's definitely kind of the mindset I had going into that day. I mean, I was only a redshirt sophomore, and not many redshirt sophomores get drafted, so. When I looked at it that way, if I got drafted, I looked at it. It was an incredible honor, and there's especially by a team like the Dodgers. I grew up a Yankee fan, and the Dodgers are the Yankees of the West. So, it's just amazing, and it's something that you dream about your whole life.
Where were you on draft day when you found out that you were drafted? Were you watching the draft, or what was going on in your head?
I was watching the draft for most of the day, but unfortunately the 32nd round is towards the end, and I stopped watching once we hit like the 27th round because I was just getting a little frustrated. I just wanted to happen, so I was actually just playing in my basement, just playing a little pool. And then since I wasn't watching, Coach Langen actually called me like 5 minutes after I got drafted, and he's like, "Dude, you got drafted," and I was like, "No way!" And basically that's history from there. But And I walk upstairs. My parents were doing the same thing as me. They were just sitting outside because they were tired of watching. And they come inside, and our eyes kind of met. And then after that, it's just like celebration. It was a really cool moment.
Now, for a fact, you're still here at Felician College taking classes. Was that part of the game plan, knowing that if you got drafted and the offer was right, you were going to come back to school and try to finish up your degree?
Yeah, part of my contract that I signed included a scholarship plan for me to finish my degree, so that was always something I wanted to get done. I have 45 credits left, so that's 3 semesters, and hopefully I'll have that done in 3 fall semesters since I can't take classes in the spring.
Now, you're a criminal justice major. What was your intent of being with that criminal justice major? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
I was going to go along the police track when baseball doesn't work out, or if it doesn't work out. Hopefully it does, but we'll see. It's a really tough career, and it's a grind, but I want to enroll into a state police academy if I can.
So that's great that you're still in school as well, and it's a good example for other kids that might be in the same predicament because you never do know if it's going to pan out or not.
Exactly.
So going back to you talking about being a Yankee fan, I have to ask you, did you watch any of the Derek Jeter?
Of course I did. It's just that growing up a Yankee fan, growing up a huge Derek Jeter fan, he's my role model growing up. There's no better of a storybook ending than you could have put together than what he did. So it's really special, and that's something that people are going to remember forever.
As you're now a Yankee of the West Coast as a Dodger, you played in the Arizona Rookie League, and you had a good season with them as well, playing first base for them. Tell me the biggest difference between college ball and professional ball.
Well, Arizona League is a different animal because Arizona heat in the summer is absolutely ridiculous when you're playing to 100 to 120 degrees every day. That's something I've never imagined. But besides the baseball end of it, the speed of the game definitely picks up. Pitchers throw harder, they have better breaking balls. So you have to make that adjustment. And fortunate for me, when I got there initially, I did. I had a great first half, but the second half I kind of slowed down a little bit. I struggled, but you know what? That happens. It's baseball.
Do you attest any of the struggles to the fact that you played in over 100 games throughout the year between Felician and summer ball and then going over to Arizona for the Arizona League?
At the time, I would say no, but looking back on it, I would definitely say that's part of it. I mean, fatigue definitely sets in towards the end of the year, that's for sure.
That day in and day out grind, that has to put a toll on your body as well, and there has to be those days where it feels like your body is just done, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were some days towards the end of the year where you're struggling to get out of bed around 12 noon when you're getting back from the ballpark around midnight. I've never slept so much in my life before I got out there, so that's something I've never imagined, and definitely going back to it, you got to prepare for it.
So looking at your experience in a professional ball, now what's your winter mindset on what you want to improve? Is there one thing or something that you want to work on throughout the offseason?
Well, I definitely want to be better conditioned because the minor league seasons it's a really, really long season because you're getting out there March 1st and you're there till September, and it's an everyday grind, and that's even more than what college is. College is like maybe 4 days a week, 5 days a week, and when you get to pro ball, it's like more like 15 out of 17 days. It's a lot of It's a lot of games, and it's a lot of time on your feet, and especially no matter where you are. I mean, I was in Arizona last year, and that's harder than playing anywhere because of the heat. But no matter where you are, it's a lot. You really have to be conditioned. You have to be strong.
Now, you guys finished the season with a 25-31 record, but many people wouldn't expect this. But you made the playoffs. You got to play in a couple of playoff games. Talk to me a little bit about how the league is broken down because of the fact that you wouldn't expect to see you guys with under 500 record making the playoffs.
Well, the way that minor league seasons are broken down, the seasons are divided in half. The winner of the first half gets an automatic bid to the playoffs. And in our situation, we came in second in the first half, so the Cleveland Indians Arizona League team, got the bid to the playoffs because they finished first. In the second half, they were also in first place. So because they were in first place, they were way far ahead of everybody. That opened up an opportunity for all the other teams in the division to advance to the playoffs because they already had a playoff berth. So fortunate enough, we got that playoff berth, and we had the chance to play a playoff game. Did
you guys have in your minds throughout the second half of the season that, hey, we have a chance to make the playoffs even though that we're struggling a little bit?
When we were struggling, we were kind of we had kind of one foot in the door, but we kind of knew we had the opportunity to make the playoffs. And then we hit like a week and a half left, and we realized, hey, we have a good chance to make the playoffs. Let's see what we can do here. So
it kind of added a little extra motivation as you move forward.
Oh, of course it does. The playoffs, the playoffs are a totally different animal. Everybody dreams of playing in the playoffs. It's just they're really, really fun to play in.
Now, you don't know where you're going to be next season yet. You just know the exact date you have to report to training camp, correct?
Yep, I'll report to Glendale, Arizona, March 1st.
And now, do you have constant communication with the Dodgers, or do they kind of leave you alone in a way?
They told me they're gonna call me starting right around now, about every 2 or 3 weeks.
So they'll have a little bit of contact, but not so much.
No,
Where
they pretty much leave you alone. They're just making sure you're doing your workouts, you're staying in shape, you're feeling healthy.
now, what's the off-season kind of workout schedule for you? Do you take a couple of weeks off? Do you continue to go on?
I took the first 3 weeks off for when I got back. About 2 weeks ago, I started hitting the gym again. Right now, I'm going to the gym about 4 days a week, and I just started hitting about once a week.
So-
Now too. Yep.
Is there any connection with the Felician College team? You hitting with them a little bit, or?
I help them. I actually coach them. I'm down there probably 4 days a week practicing with them. I'm not really practicing, but just helping them out, hitting fungos, just staying involved because I feel it's really important to give back, and I enjoy being there because a lot of those guys are my teammates. They're my old teammates, and they're some of my best friends. So it's fun to be around.
Now, it's a little bit early for this. The season doesn't start until 2015, but early look at this Felician College team. What do you expect to see from them?
Well, they're definitely a lot different team than they were last year. They lost a lot of bats, but they returned a lot of pitching. They pretty much only lost two strong pitchers, but two pitchers that they're going to be able to replace because a lot of guys have gotten older and a lot of guys are stronger, and a lot of kids have matured on that pitching staff. John Holland and Jack Fowler are going to do a great job. Like we talked about before, they're two great competitors, and they're going to do a good job. The lineup is going to be really young. But the lineup they're going to put out every day now is going to be a lot more. They're going to have a lot more speed than what we had last year. Last year, we were the kind of team that hit a lot of doubles and triples. Aaron Burr led the country in triples, and we had a couple of guys that were in double-digit doubles, and that doesn't happen a lot for a lot of college teams. But this team, you're going to see a lot more bunting, a lot more hit and runs, and a lot more stolen bases for sure.
So if you're a player on that team and you were in the lineup last year, some of the returning guys, is that a transition trying to switch the way you play the game? Because now you might play a little more small ball with the speed as to opposed to when you had a lot of guys hitting doubles and triples last year. Does that kind of change your mentality at the plate?
Well, the guys that were in the lineup last year that are returning, that was kind of their game already. They kind of like set the basis for the rest of the lineup for those guys for the middle of the lineup coming up. So the game's not going to change much for them. They're definitely going to be counted on to get a couple big hits this year, more than they were last year. But they're definitely the guys that I think they can step up and make that adjustment. They're going to do fine.
If this team is able to match the success of your team last year, what's the one thing that's going to carry them? Is it going to be the pitching? Is it going to be the offense, the defense? What do you think?
Pitching, defense wins games. I'm a big believer of that, and timely hitting, and that's what they're going to have to do for sure.
So, taking a look at what they're bringing to the table, you have a lot of guys that you lost. Is that a hard transition as well to make up for the veteran leadership that's lost, or you think that they have the guys in place that are going to help them achieve that?
They definitely need the pitching staff. They're going to do well. There's a lot of good leaders on that pitching staff, and they're a really, really motivated group. The hitters, we lost a lot. We had a lot of upperclassmen hitters, and you're going to need they need somebody to really step up and take hold of that leadership, because there could be a time when there could only be one senior on that field, if any. So that's definitely that's a big change from last year, and they're going to somebody's going to have to step up, or a couple of kids are going to have to step up and take leadership roles.
So I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. So think of the first thing that comes to your mind when I ask you the question and answer it right away, all right?
You got it.
Favorite field other than Felician's field to play in the conference?
Wilmington University.
The hardest team that you had to play in your 2 years?
Wilmington for sure.
Why were they so difficult?
They're just a very solid team. They have a very solid pitching staff. They always have timely hits. Their hitters don't strike out a lot, and they always play good defense.
Is there one park that you felt you hit better in than any other park?
I loved hitting at our field. I mean, you look at it crazy, but I know I always put up good numbers at that field. It's fun to hit at that field because you just aim for the gaps. You can hit triples, you can hit doubles, and unfortunately, there's not many home runs there. But it kind of changes the game a little bit, and you always feel comfortable at home.
When you played a little bit of third base, was that a bit of a transition for you? Because the first year you played mostly first. Then the beginning of this season, you were moved over to third base. Was that a hard transition for you?
I was a third baseman back in high school, so it wasn't that much of a transition.
Did it take you a while to get back into the groove?
Yeah, it took me about a couple weeks, maybe a month to get back into it. But, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
If I had to pick a fielder between you and Manny Machado from the Orioles, who could I take? Take him?
Yeah.
Now, if there was one pitcher in Major League Baseball that you can face, that you can have an opportunity to face, who would it be?
Well, being on the Dodgers would be a lot of fun to face Clayton Kershaw. He'd probably get me out the first couple of times, but maybe I might be able to get something on him.
What would you try to look for in a bat against Kershaw?
You got to hit the fastballs. He can't wait around for a breaking ball, especially his.
It's kind of a looping kind of breaking ball. I believe it was last time he pitched, he was clocked in at like 69 miles per hour. How big of a issue is that when you're seeing a 94, 95 mile per hour fastball and he drops that in?
Well, half the time you're going to take it, and if you got 2 strikes, you just hope you can foul it off. That's what it comes down to.
Now, if there was one player that was before you were born that you were not able to watch growing up, who would that player be?
That's a good question. I would have loved to watch Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron growing up. I had the chance to watch Barry Bonds. I was a big Barry Bonds guy growing up, and I love watching Derek Jeter and pretty much just those two. And if I had the chance, if Ken Griffey Jr. is more healthy, he was one of my favorite guys growing up as well.
Now, if there was one player in Major League Baseball that you kind of imitate your game around or kind of the similar way, who would that player be?
Well, mentally and how people talk and how people act, it's definitely Derek Jeter for sure. When Mark Teixeira first came to the Yankees, I really liked watching him. He was one of my favorite guys to watch.
Now, as a Yankee fan, you think you would stand the chance in the box against Mariano Rivera in his prime?
I would go stay in the box. I don't know what I would do, but I would definitely hack. That's for sure. I get my swings in against him.
Now, I don't know how many ballparks you've been to, but what Major League ballpark would you like to most visit or play in?
I've had a chance to play in a couple, unfortunately, but I would definitely say I would really want to play in Fenway if I had the chance to.
Which was the best ballpark that you did play in?
Yankee Stadium's a real nice place.
The old one or new one?
The new one.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, looking at your time at Felician, what was the greatest single moment for you as a baseball player here?
Winning that CAC championship. When you're able to dogpile with a bunch of your other teammates, there's no better feeling than that for sure.
Now, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit. Going back to last year's team, if you had to play another game in that conference tournament and you had one guy on the mound, who would that guy be?
You always want your ace going out on the bump, and that's Jerry Vasto.
What was the one major reason why Felician College is the conference champion this year?
This year or last year?
Well, last year's team.
Last year's team, we were a team. Like we talked about before, we did everything we had to. We had great defense, great pitching, great hitting. We were very balanced.
Who is the kind of the guy who makes everybody loose in the clubhouse, the kind of comedian type of guy?
Larry Shore? For sure. That's an easy question.
Now, do you guys like to play a couple of practical jokes? If so, can you let me know some of them?
Well, definitely on bus trips, and especially in the beginning of the year, we'd always play some practical jokes on freshmen that I really shouldn't talk about on the radio, but there were definitely some good ones. That's for sure.
Do you guys kind of have a freshman initiation?
Slightly. It's nothing bad. It's more of a joke. We don't make them do anything that they really wouldn't want to do or anything that's politically incorrect or that we would get in trouble for.
So, if you could play for one manager in Major League Baseball, who would that guy be?
That's a really tough question. I would have to say Joe Torre. I mean, nobody complained about Joe Torre, so I feel like he'd be a great guy to play for.
Now, have you met any of the Dodgers from the around the Major League level?
I got the chance to actually know Justin Turner. I worked out with him for a couple days. He was the main guy that I had the chance to talk to the most. Otherwise, I met a couple of other guys, but I never really got to know them any.
So this is a very random question, but after your baseball career is over, you never thought about having a broadcasting career? You're pretty good at this stuff.
Hey, we'll see what happens. It'd be pretty cool to be like one of those guys on like John Kruk on Sunday Night Baseball to call one of those games. That'd be a pretty cool experience to have.
World Series favorite for you?
I'd say Baltimore Orioles. When you get the team that's hot, they always have the advantage going into the playoffs.
And who's the team in the National League?
I think the Dodgers are the team in the National League to beat. They're just the most complete team. They play pitching, defense, and they hit. And Clayton Kershaw, there's nobody better out there right now.
Well, that will wrap it up for us here. Thank you so much again, Scott, for coming today. We are definitely going to hope that you come back, and we'll keep an eye out for you. Everybody, make sure you keep an eye out for Scott DeYoung a Dodgers prospect, former Felician College standout. Best of luck to you as the season goes on and as you're finishing your degree here, and hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that will wrap it up for us here at Around the Bases today. Reminder, every Friday night at 7 o'clock, you could hear us right on streamlicensing.com or the TuneIn app. Go to Facebook